Okay, it's Friday night. Welcome to Deadman's Tome, our damn near everyday podcast. It's Friday night. Welcome to Deadman's Tome.
You would miss me if you didn't talk to me every day, every other day.
Would I though?
Yeah.
Jesse
Probably not.
is unavailable tonight. So, filling in, we have me, S.K. Barrett, the ever something Becky, and Wes. So,
hello.
The
Nice to not be talking about serial killers for once.
you love it.
Yeah.
How do you
I
know
do.
that our guest isn't a serial killer?
Well,
Oh.
you know, we're still
Plot
working
twist.
on the historical killers and not, current events yet.
Yep.
So, our guest tonight, Hyane Sawbones.
Oh, damn it.
I love it.
You've been too close to Jesse.
I'm not going to touch that one at all.
Just let it slide by.
Yeah. So, Sawbones, how you doing? Welcome to the show
Pretty
again.
good. Yeah, it's definitely nice to be on again. I love it. It's super fun.
Well, let's
We're
just
glad.
dive right in. We've got shit to talk about. And
Yes, we do.
where shall we begin? Let's say, guess what? There has
What?
been, dun dun dun, a merger.
Oh,
There
Lord.
has.
A big ass merger.
It's insane.
And some heads are rolling at the studios. That's for damn sure.
So you want me to read this?
Yeah. Let's
Okay.
give us some tidbits here.
Fox layoffs leave staffers I can't even say it. Fox layoffs leave staffers stunned and saddened. Damn it. Fox knew this day was coming. For over a year, the men and women who work at the Century City lot have talked of little else but severance packages and job searches. They knew that when Disney wrapped up its $71.3 billion. $71.3. Let that hit you for just a minute. Not million, billion. Acquisition
Couple bucks.
of much of 21st Century Fox's film and television assets, thousands of jobs would be eliminated.
How many jobs?
Yep.
Thousands.
Just. All right.
That's unbelievable.
So there are so many ramifications of this. So
Oh, yeah.
I'm not even sure where to begin. But let's start with the layoffs, okay?
That's,
Because
I can't even imagine.
so
Yeah,
I mean, that's going to affect the economy and everything there. I mean, they've got all these out-of-work people that all of a sudden flood the job market.
Well, the biggest thing there when you're looking at it as well is going to be where the layoffs were happening. And to start looking at that, the top CEOs basically across the board were axed during it.
nice.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And
Because
that,
upper management, yeah.
yeah, and that just shows where Disney is likely going to be taking all these, you know, massive amounts of entertainment assets that it has from Fox. And it shows what they're going to be doing with it.
They're going to be
know.
doing whatever the hell they want, and they don't need any input from Fox.
Right, right, exactly. And pretty much.
You know,
They're going to be taking it in new directions.
I gotta give kudos though, because so often during mergers, management survives and workers get it in the ass.
Yeah.
What else is new?
If they're actually lopping off from the top down, then good for them.
Yeah, I mean, that is definitely a good part, although, when you have a conglomerate like that, you get almost that rule of bureaucracy kicks in, and you almost, they're going to be doing something wrong with what they have, that some people are going to get pissed off.
Oh, well, absolutely true. Absolutely true.
right.
At the same
Just
time,
growing as such a huge behemoth kind of entity, media entity.
right.
Yeah.
Do you know what my brother said when I told him? He said, now MASH is Disney, so I guess Klinger is a Disney princess.
Nice.
Funny.
How
But
about that?
here's the thing. Here's the other thing. Two other points. The people at Fox who made this necessary are, their nuts got on the chopping block.
Yeah.
So they earned that.
Yeah. They
Yep.
definitely in it. Oh, go ahead.
No, finish that.
Oh, I was just going to say with that the other big thing that's probably going to come out of it is Disney realigning a lot of those assets for its streaming platform that they're working on.
Yeah.
Not just the ones that exist like Hulu, but the actual Disney stream thing. I would have to go to the 405 to find out what it was called, because I honestly can't remember.
They've been working on that shit for years. I've had several inquiries professionally about helping out on that, and that goes back, 3-4 years now, and it's just been a kind of a fiasco for them.
Yeah, it was the 7th of August where it became a little bit clearer what they were trying to do as far as the press, but definitely Disney Flicks is what they were calling it right now.
Well, what's interesting is, so I'm going to put up a different headline, and I'm going to mention that where is it? Oh, there it is. So this is the mentality of corporate management. So Disney comes in and they say, well, great, we got your assets now, half you people get lost. Because we can't be profitable and keep you around. And the problem with this, the main problem that I see, well, I'm going to take it from this other perspective, is if the Fox management had the balls to do that in the first place, they wouldn't have had to sell out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, in good part.
And
then
reason, very often the reason why companies need to be bought is because they're unwilling to take the harsh and brutal steps necessary to keep the company alive.
Right.
Right. The wise business moves.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And because they're such fucking weenies, they need Disney to come in and make the hard choices that they were, you know, to Zuckerberg to do.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Fantastic adjective for that.
And so I'm really glad those assholes are getting fired.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
so right now, up on the screen, it says that Netflix stock went up on this news. Now, why would that be? Doesn't this put them in jeopardy?
You'd think.
I mean, to a degree, but, you know, I would also question whether those two things are actually related,
Oh,
as to whether the Netflix stock wasn't going up for other reasons.
fair enough. Correlation is not necessarily causation.
Exactly.
Especially
You look at
since,
like mhm.
especially since Disney now has controlling interest in, guess who? Hulu.
Mm-hmm. They do.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just thinking there. I'm trying to remember the last number that Netflix announced as far as subscribers, but it was like massive, and it blew their predictions and their estimates out of the water.
Well, that's good.
Uh-oh. Did you guys hear that, or was that just me? It was like a weird tech noise.
Did somebody die
Weird.
on the
I
call?
No.
definitely heard it, but I don't know what it was.
Me neither.
I'm
It's
still
weird.
I'm still. Can you hear me? I think I'm still alive.
Yes, you can still hear you.
Well, moving on, I guess.
That must have been
The ghost in the machine.
FBI surveillance van 4 has
Yeah.
gone offline.
They're switching shifts.
Yeah. Keep it down out there, guys, while you're
Mhm.
listening in.
It was the Italian boom hour.
In the fourth quarter 2018, Netflix had 148 million.
Total
Worldwide.
or new? Total.
That was, from what this is saying, it's total, but
Okay.
I thought it was bigger than that. I'm looking around here. I'll let you know if I find something while I'm poking around Google.
Netflix, however, has a real long-term problem financially. And that problem is that their revenue model is built around subscribers. And in order to grow their revenues, they have to grow subscribers. Now, you look at Hulu. Hulu sells runs ads on the shows, most of them. Amazon.
They do.
Amazon has Prime,
Mm-hmm.
plus like a $40 billion trillion.
Yep.
So Netflix, and I have to say, I've been a fan of Netflix from day one. Way back in the mail, getting DVDs in the mail days. I switched over to them from the very beginning. And I would hate to see them lose at this stage of the game, because they pretty much invented streaming movies and TV. But
They did.
They need another revenue channel.
Yeah. You know, it could also help if they are spending what massive amounts of cash they do have in the right spots too. Another number that was recent, they're programming right now, the originals, Netflix originals, actually outnumber the other stuff on the platform.
I believe it.
as
really
Yeah, they've been
now.
pushing that for a while.
It's really
Yep.
hard to find new releases on Netflix.
Hmm.
Well, and it's that, but then it's also just the massive amounts of cash they're putting into,
Right.
shows like Stranger Things and.
Some of those things are really great. I totally admit that. But you know,
Mhm.
I don't go to Netflix looking for what was in the movie theaters last year because I don't expect to find it.
Mm-mm.
Right?
Yeah.
It's not going to be there.
No, I don't know.
Exactly.
I'm gonna go to
Unfortunately.
Amazon for that.
Hulu does a decent job of that too.
Yeah, or Hulu. Yeah.
Hmm.
You have to kind of buy those, though, don't you?
Sometimes. Sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes.
They will put some stuff into the Prime's slots, to get people into that and keep them there and keep them happy. I mean,
Mhm.
Amazon does a lot of original stuff too,
Yep,
and Hulu's
They
getting
do.
into that game.
they are. They've been kind of slower to move with it, but they're getting there. Definitely.
Yeah, so this is going to be. What do you think, Wes? What is this going to mean to the entertainment consumer?
Well, I mean, you already have it right now where people are, having to go through a bunch of different streaming services to get what they need, what they want to watch. I wonder if it's not going to be overload at some point in the market,
Yeah.
where people are
Yep.
just going to say, I'm not going to go with these new ones
Right.
because they can't from the pocketbook.
Right.
Well,
Just
and
too much.
one of
Yeah.
the networks puts their own stuff on their own streaming platform. Was it CBS? I think
CBS All Access, yep.
they're you can't get their shit anywhere else.
Mm-mm.
And you're exactly right. I for one am not gonna pay for them also.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what kind of genius was thinking this is a good idea for CBS.
Well, they're going after the original stuff too. I mean, look at Jordan Peele's reboot of The Twilight Zone that's on there. And I read they're also working on a bunch of other shows, and I was going to say Perry Mason for that. They're doing a reboot of that, but that's not CBS. I think that's HBO.
Yeah, but
So-
but unless they come up with something that's like Game of Thrones level, people are not going to. I know a lot of people, and I bet everybody who's listening knows people who, as soon as Game of Thrones is over, they're canceling HBO.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Oh, absolutely.
And
And I mean, that rarely happens, as you're correct to point out, with getting a hit that big. But when they do get a hit that big, the return is massive.
yeah, it's colossal. But CBS is a traditional network. They're not going to do a show like that. They can't do a show like that.
Yeah, they can't sink the budget into it. You're
Well,
absolutely
I
right.
mean, they can't do anything content-wise like that. I mean, granted, Game of Thrones is, historically brutal.
Well, they can with CBS All Access. It's online
if
they wanted to.
Yeah, but they're not. I doubt they would do that, right?
I'd be
I
surprised.
don't know. Yeah, I'd be surprised too.
So
But-
they have to go with PG level stuff and try and make it as compelling as something like that. Good luck.
Yeah,
that's
CBS.
difficult.
Good luck.
Yeah.
What do you think, Hyane?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, having things that are going to apply to such a vast, audience, restricting your content like that, what you're going to be putting out, is definitely putting you significantly behind the game, I'd say.
Yeah, as Mr. Deadman points out in the chat, the Marvel originals were pulled, for instance, because of Disney. Yeah, that would be definitely an example of that, content-wise.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
If
I
Disney
think
takes over the world, is it all going to be like Disneyland? Because that might be kind of cool.
is this going to come down to a battle between Disney and Amazon?
Yeah,
Probably.
maybe.
And who's bigger? I think Amazon's bigger right now overall.
Yeah.
I think so.
I mean,
You could check stock price.
they're over $1 trillion in valuation last I heard.
It's insane.
That's like a good portion of Central America.
Yep.
I don't know. I don't like this actually. I'm again it because
Me too.
because you get groupthink, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody, I'm sure, has worked for somebody else at some point in their lives, and you know that a company's attitudes are driven from the top down. Their attitudes and their the ethics and their principles and the culture. It's all trickle down from the top office, and it's pretty much impossible to go against that in an organization of any size.
Mm-hmm.
It's that bureaucratic mindset that sets in.
Right. And you get a lot of "we don't do that here" thinking.
Get
Yeah,
a lot
definitely.
of not wanting to rock the boat.
Yep.
Right.
And for all their talk about disruption and everything else, man,
Well-
they sure as hell don't want to do it when they get big enough.
Right. Well, this is what has in the past made companies vulnerable to, becoming obsolete, is because smaller, more nimble companies come in and shake things up and disrupt any given industry.
Yep.
I'm not sure how the hell that's going to happen anymore, frankly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
how can
know-
anything else even compete enough to make waves?
I know.
Yep.
How can you? I mean, especially because a lot of these companies are able to choke off the flow of information. You can't compete with Google because Google can make you effectively disappear.
Right?
Mhm.
Pretty much non-existent.
Yeah. So I think we're gonna have to. I think we're gonna have to get into a whole new round of trust busting,
Mhm.
breaking up.
They
some
have to.
breaking these companies up and making them smaller so they can allow for new sprouts of competition to grow up.
Exactly.
And dust off the Sherman Antitrust Act and Teddy Roosevelt's skeleton while you're at it.
Absolutely. It might take resurrecting Teddy to get it done. How many terms did he serve? Is he still eligible?
Well. Yeah.
So, yeah, I think we beat
Okay.
that all to death. We have.
Okay, well, wait a minute.
What? There's more?
We have one more thing.
Jeez Louise.
Look here now.
What?
This one really pissed me off, and I do mean badly. This is on a site called goodreader.com. Okay.
Uh-huh.
It says, the title of this says, self-published authors should not be called, self-publishers should not be called authors. Okay.
Oh, them fighting words there.
Well, yeah.
Well, you know, my first reaction, I don't have to know anything about that content. Any title that includes the word should is some asshole trying to tell other people how to live.
Well,
Right.
I agree with that. But unfortunately, I have heard the same thing come out of a couple of people's mouths. And, that is not the case, because I know a lot of self-published authors who are very successful and
We had
probably
one on the
make
show
a
on
lot,
Wednesday.
and make a lot more money than some of the people that are traditionally published, like Jeff Minapace, Matt Shaw, Michael Bray. I mean, I could.
Brian Meeks.
Yeah. I mean, it slays me, because it's just such a wrong way of thinking. Now, I understand the fact that, in this article it says that, publishing has changed. Yes, that's true, because it used to be that you could only publish with the big publishers. There were no others.
Well, there were always the smaller houses.
Well, yeah, but I mean, as far as being well known for an author, it would be just the larger publishing houses. But
Yeah, the bigger outlets.
right. And unfortunately, and I do say unfortunately, anybody can publish on Amazon. It doesn't matter.
That's not a bug. That's a feature.
Well, it is, but it's not, because some of the stuff should not be published.
No, I disagree.
You think everybody should publish it? It doesn't matter what it is?
Pretty much. And let me tell you why. This article that you're talking about, and by the way, Becky, if you could toss the link to that article in the chat, that'd be awesome.
Sure. Be glad to.
This article represents guild mentality. And what that means is that they want to have gatekeepers who decide who can get in and who cannot get in. And they like the idea of having the publishing houses be the gatekeepers to publishing, when in fact, what are traditional publishers? They're fucking manufacturers. They're book manufacturers. That's what they do.
What?
That's all they do.
Right.
So Amazon comes along and says, guess what? We don't need those fuckers. You got a book? Well, let's have it. And they do an end around the gatekeepers.
Well, essentially, that's just like in, really any market. And speaking as the only non-author here, or a non-author, you provide superior content. That's how you get around them. They can shut the fuck up if you're providing better stuff.
Exactly.
Put up or shut up. That's what I would take from it.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I think there's sort of pros and cons around it, and I like having, honestly, both the outlets, the Amazon route, the self-publishing route, as well as the big guys, because it creates different settings for people with, different motives and different goals and stuff. And I also like the idea, even as a self-published writer who purposely went that route to not deal with all the bureaucracy and bullshit that I feel like comes with trying to appeal to the big markets. Is still there's I think something to be said about the passion that hopefully is reflected in the people who do pursue the big deals and the big markets and stuff like that. It's kind of like, think about like the analogy of like hockey or something, being a player for a team like the Red Wings is significantly different than like, minor leagues and stuff. It doesn't necessarily mean you're so much greater as a hockey player, but it means you've managed to play, this professional game and land the big jobs and stuff. And I do think that there's, something to be said about those types of pursuits, as well as, the ones who are going to put things out just themselves, or, independent places, smaller outlets as well. So having the different routes to go, I think, is important.
And there have always been, to that point, there have always been people who have been locked out of the traditional publishing processes and who have gone out on their own, published books, marketed their books, hustled the hell out of it, and been successful at it.
Yeah.
Right.
Much
because
more rare in the past, but there was always people doing it.
While the ivory tower assholes are worried about theoretical arguments and defending titles, the other people are out there hustling and producing better content. Exactly.
Well, don't get me wrong. I wasn't in any way, shape, form, or style saying that you shouldn't self-publish. I see nothing wrong with it.
Right.
I just don't think that...
I know that article's not you, yeah.
Oh, no,
I
not
mean,
at all.
of course.
Obviously, because she started off saying, this pisses me off.
Right.
Right, and it does really badly.
I think there may be an element potentially of what Becky maybe is getting at as well, in terms of the open world of Amazon publishing, is there's essentially like no vetting of content, I guess, beyond reviews and stuff, but the idea that it's so much easier to just put stuff up at least puts in the opportunity for people who aren't as serious or as dedicated as whatever as certain people might be looking for in their art and in their writing, so that's maybe a lot of quote unquote junk just slip in that then you got to sift through yourself, as opposed to having these other channels within the system,
Exactly.
Oh, absolutely.
That and it makes it harder for authors that are serious and are dedicated and whatever to get their stuff out, as far as people seeing it.
Right, because there's so much content.
There is, and that's really what I object to.
Restate that, please, Becky.
That the authors that are serious and dedicated and really want this and whatever, it makes it, because the market is so saturated, it makes it so much more difficult for them to be able to get their books out to an audience. I mean, there's so much competition, and then
independence.
Yes.
Right. Well,
for Amazon, because
it's not as yes. You can't just write a book and throw it on Amazon and wait for the royalties to flow in and then go down and buy your yacht.
Well,
I'm
was
sure
actually
I'm sure our
just.
current guest would agree with that.
Yeah, that's definitely not how it works.
It turns out writing the book is the easiest part of being an author.
I agree completely.
Have you guys read anything about that QAnon book on Amazon? What you were saying, Sawbones, about the content, about questionable content getting out there. I mean, this is a book that's filled with, conspiracy theory bullshit and conjecture that even went to the point of saying Democrats eat children. Not even kidding.
Oh, yeah. Right.
And it's rocketing up the charts on Amazon.
Okay.
I mean, that's fine. It's not Amazon's fault. It's the idiots who are buying it,
Right.
But, yeah, it just goes to what you were saying about content.
But it is partly Amazon's fault because they allowed that.
Well, why shouldn't they?
Yeah. I mean, why shouldn't they? It's, it's not necessarily, I mean, it's everybody's job when they're out there buying to be selective, to use your own judgment about what you're looking at.
Yeah. So one of the things that Amazon created, I mean, and pretty much invented, was the concept of the long tail. And this is not a porn reference.
One of yours that isn't a porn reference. Huh. A moment of podcast history right here, ladies and gentlemen.
So what the long tail is about is that in every industry throughout history, there have been, so if you think of market availability, even if you think of it in the shape of a snake, like the bulk of everything that, pre-internet, the bulk of everything you knew about constituted the head of the snake in any product category, because you could only know about so many things, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what the internet has created is the long tail of the snake, and it allows consumers to find out about more stuff that they might be interested in, that they would never have known about before, because there was no way for them to know about it. So when Mr. Sawbones throws a new book out on Amazon, that's in the long tail. But there's a way for people to find out about it now. Yes,
Yeah.
Becky, as you say, the market is saturated, but in a way it also isn't, because you can go and find books that you may have never had the chance to hear about before, because you can search, because you can find, related things.
Okay, I understand that, but when I say there are books on Amazon that shouldn't be there, I'm not talking about. I think you're misunderstanding what I mean.
Maybe.
I mean, probably. I mean, books that haven't been edited, books that haven't been, that the writer wrote, one pass and done. Books that are, I'm not talking about the content of the book, or that the author has never written a book before. I mean, and my problem with that, and the reason why I say that is because readers are really finicky. If a reader that isn't, if you have somebody that logs on to Amazon for the first time and isn't really a reader, and they see a cover that they like and they think, I'm going to give this a chance, and it's full of grammatical mistakes, and it's full of errors, and it's full of, it has 12 blank pages in the middle or whatever.
My book now. Stop it.
No, I am not. Shut up. Chances are that they're not going to look for another book.
Why?
Why would they?
Well, they certainly wouldn't. I mean, if it was me, I certainly wouldn't look for another book by that author.
No, but a
like,
lot of them anymore are
I'm not
just
gonna
like,
say, books are stupid because this author writes like trash.
but you don't have, that's what I'm saying, is you don't have that mindset, and neither do I. But a lot of people don't think that way.
Well, you could drop that way off of your statement, and I totally would agree with you.
Well, that too, but
I can certainly see that point between the simple monetary aspect of having to purchase the books, as well as
right.
Arguably books take the most energy and dedication as the audience to consume, time-wise, just putting yourself into the piece. It's different than sitting down for an hour and a half or 2 hours for a movie or something.
That's why I don't
read.
See? And for a lot of people, I think
read.
that's the point that, people, if they come across something that's just, they think is absolute amateurish garbage, then reaching out for something else that they're, unfamiliar with, or, searching out other things is potentially going to be kind of hindered by that experience. I could see that.
Well, and just in the chat, Mr. Divinson, there are free previews. And while, yes, there are free I can't even talk. I swear to God, I must shut up. Yes, there are free previews, but I don't know how many books I've seen where the first 2 or 3 chapters are not bad. And you turn the next page and, oh my God. I mean, it's,
you know what? You can even return ebooks. So.
Really?
Yeah.
It's interesting.
I'm pretty sure.
I didn't know that. I did not know that.
Let's just say that that's true.
Okay.
No, you definitely can, if you buy a print book, you can definitely return that.
Yeah, for sure.
The thing is that, if a person is able to generalize, like, books these days are trash. Well, how do you know? Well, I read one and it was awful. That person.
But the problem is
that person's probably going to find something wrong with everything.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, the problem is because the market is so saturated, and because there are so many books like that, and just says you're right, you can refund an ebook. But the chances are that they're gonna, if they think, okay, well, I'll try another one and see, they pick up another one from a different author, and it's the same damn thing, and then, you've lost a reader.
But you know what? There's shitty books at the bookstore too.
Well, yeah, but.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, do you think the big kind of outlets are putting out more consistently quality material? Because I don't know if that might be true. I'm not sure.
They might be better edited, but that's
right?
not even,
kind of more
even
professional.
That's not always true.
I will say this. Until 5 years ago, I had never read an indie book. Okay? I bought a Kindle. Well, I bought an iPad, and it had a Kindle app, and I was like, ooh, well, I'd like to read. What the hell is this? So, I learned about what it was. Well, then I realized that I could go to Amazon and get books to read.
Yeah.
So I got a book. It was a Stephen King book. And I read it. Shut up. And I read it. And I was like, okay. So I went back to get another book. And it gave me suggestions. And I thought, well, I've never heard of these people. So I clicked on one, and it was Housemates by Ian. I always say it wrong. Shut up. Ian Robright. Okay. And so I was like, well, the cover is freaking awesome. I'm gonna read the description. So I read the description, and I was like, okay, $2.99, bing, bought it.
Right.
I didn't know they teach reading in Tennessee.
Shut up. I don't teach you how to
Only kidding.
very well.
Only kidding. I love Tennessee.
Oh no, I'm kidding. So I
just
was,
don't teach pronunciation.
I said, no, they do not. So, I mean, I started reading it, and I read the whole thing in one sitting. And I was like, holy shit.
So we're going to hear about every book you bought?
I have
She bought all of them in the state there, SK.
Oh my god.
All 2 of them. Only kidding. Only kidding.
Come on, Becky, let's hear a point one of these days.
Shut up. So after, I was like, who the hell published this? So I went and looked, and it was the author. And so I went back to the book, and I looked, and in the back of the book, it told about him, and he was on Facebook, and I was like, wow. So I got on Facebook, and I looked him up, and sure enough, there he is. And I was like, holy shit. And so just because it's me, and I have to say what I think, I messaged him. And he messaged me back, and I was shocked. And I told him I read his book. And he was like, can I pick your brain? And I was like, well, it won't take you very long, but sure.
He's like, oh, you're the one.
Yeah. He's like, oh, damn it, not this one. And so anyway, that started me on my trek to, reading all indie authors. Well, yeah, that's where I wound up. Anyway, I'm not sorry either. Anyway, if I had picked up a bad indie book, I don't know if I would have looked at another indie book. It's, because I'm pretty particular about what I read, because I have a really bad habit. I cannot put a book down
until after you read it.
Yeah, if you're going to be particular, wouldn't you be looking at more? Wouldn't you be, thumbing through more of that?
Well, being how is I'd never bought a book online before. I had always gone in bookstores, and most indies aren't in bookstores. No, they are now, or they can be now.
You want to know? Let me tell you about one of the most successful independently published books prior to the internet. And it was a tiny little book called Jonathan Livingston Seagull.
Mm-hmm.
And it was an allegory, basically.
Yeah, I've read it.
And it was massive. Made that son of a gun, Richard Bach, a ton of money. And he got to go out and buy all kinds of fucking airplanes. I mean, seriously.
I think SK wants an airplane.
Duh.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's so scary. No,
but
absolutely not.
It's it can be done, and it can be done today. And there are people you've never even heard of who are making, 5 figures a month as independent publishers, making far more as independents than they could ever make off a traditional. But it's a lot of goddamn work. And what's really, I have this ongoing gripe about creative versus non-creative people in the business world, and it goes something like this. If you're you're an artist of some type, if you're a creative person who wants to go into business, you have to be creative and know business and accounting and marketing and all these things. But if you know what? If you're an accountant, nobody expects you to create art.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's not fair. That's what I'm saying. It's not damn fair.
It's not damn fair at all.
Okay, enough about us and bitching. We need to talk to Mr. Sawbones
Oh.
because he's going to tell us about his books.
Is that why you're on?
Is that why I'm on? I'm never
Well,
quite
it
sure.
ain't to listen to me talk.
Might
Fireside
be.
Gripes with SK and Tennessee Girl.
Keeps me entertained and engaged. What better way to spend a Friday night?
So, wow.
Do you want us to answer that? No.
You want a list?
Yeah, quite a few options maybe, but it's still a good one.
I remember doing other things on Friday nights, but it has in fact been quite a while.
What, did you
Sometime
milk the
in-
cows late at night?
I'm not from the farm. Just don't assume everybody goes cow tipping on Friday, Saturday nights, Becky.
Yeah, that's a unique experience.
My lord.
Some of us grew up with serial killers and not cows, okay?
Oh my god.
Yeah. Yeah, they're so much more well-adjusted in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah.
Hey!
Oh my god. Mr. Deadman just asked a question. Are y'all ready for this?
Never.
Would y'all have sex with a bunny woman?
A bunny woman.
Like on your cover?
I'm gonna go with yeah. I'll do it.
I'm assuming you would say yes because it's your cover.
Yeah, I might be a little biased.
Yeah. Oh, let me see if I can ask that question the way in Deadman voice.
Oh yeah, because you were supposed to be him.
I'm supposed to be him, so let me
Oh my god, this
let me
is
see if I
not
can
gonna
do
be
Deadman
good.
voice. Over. Okay. So would y'all have sex with a like a bunny woman?
God, SK.
What?
Oh my god.
Was that okay? Did I
Oh
do
my
Deadman
god.
okay?
Yeah. He just said this better be good.
Not enough stuttering.
It was a nice attempt.
Well,
Oh
you
my
know,
God.
Too sober.
I've only been working on this a couple hours, so it's just my first try.
You haven't had enough shots.
I haven't
And
had
you're
any
too
shots.
grumpy. Well, that's what I said. You haven't had enough.
Yeah. So
And you're too grumpy.
I'm not grumpy. I'm always nice.
Okay.
So we have up on the stream this book cover that belongs to our guest.
Yeah, tell us.
Tell us
All about it.
this. Something volume 1.
Something volume 1.
Yeah.
It's Stories Sung in Star Stuff, volume 1.
What is
With a
Star
bunny
Stuff?
lady. Star Stuff is everything. All things.
That narrows it down.
Yeah, doesn't it? I like to be clear about things.
Is it a collection of stories?
It is. It's a collection of short stories, and this is actually technically, I guess, like a second edition. I published them with a different cover and with a little bit different formatting and stuff. I don't know, somewhere probably about 2 years ago, and then about a year ago, I put out this version of it, which I think is much, much better. I love how the cover and everything turned out. So I'm pretty pleased with it.
Yeah.
Jesse wants to know if you can snort stardust.
Yeah, absolutely. I recommend it.
Uh-oh.
The problem is you never remember afterwards.
Yeah, no, probably not.
Is that one of those things that'll make you run naked through the neighbor's yard?
Not
Hopefully.
that you know of.
Hopefully. As long as I don't remember, it'll be okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh my God.
And the detective says to Becky, "So we have this video."
Fuck. Damn it.
If you're from the Pacific Northwest, it'll make you wear your neighbor's skin and run around naked in the
Oh
yard.
my God.
Isn't that right, SK?
Well, not necessarily skin, but the bunny head on the woman would be an actual bunny.
Oh my God. Yeah.
So
what's your favorite story in that book?
My favorite story, that's kind of difficult, kind of not maybe. Probably a story called Monrovia. It's the second to the last story in the piece, or in the collection. And it's kind of loosely about this little girl who heals exceptionally quickly, like a Wolverine type of thing, and she's deemed as being very beautiful in the town she's in. So the town sort of takes from her a little bit of skin here, maybe an eye there, so that they can be beautiful like her because she grows back so quickly.
Oh wow!
So it's always, I've written a lot of things. I've always had kind of a quote-unquote soft spot for that narrative.
Yeah, I need to read that.
It's a good one.
So I have a follow-up question based on Becky's excellent question. Do you, as a writer, have you ever experienced where you don't necessarily enjoy the writing of a particular story, but you like the results more than you like the experience of writing it, and or vice versa?
Yeah, I've definitely been in that space. Maybe not for like a whole story, but certainly for parts of stories. I write in a fairly stream of consciousness sort of a style. Kind of start with an idea or a certain plot point or something. Sometimes it's just a bit of language or something, and have a kind of a destination in mind and try to fill in the blanks as I go. And there's plenty of times actually where as I'm filling in those blanks, I'll feel like I don't like something or it doesn't feel like it's working. And I also like to just kind of fight through those spaces and kind of give the narratives their own life. Like I don't do a whole lot of editing and things like that. So there's been plenty of times where I'll go back and read something that in the process of writing I was not satisfied with, or at least hesitant about whether or not it was going to be as effective as I was hoping for. And then upon reading after the fact, days after or something, find that it's much more successful to me than I had anticipated, which is always a very pleasant experience. I probably like when that happens. Yeah, I probably like that more than like sitting and feeling like I'm spot on as the words come out, because it allows me to sort of be confident with, you know, what's going on under the surface, I guess, so to speak.
Cool. Do you use beta readers? Do you get feedback from readers before you publish?
Not really. Usually the only person that has the inside read before things are fully going out is my girlfriend. She reads through and browses through pretty much every word that comes out. And
It's
sometimes
not really fair to her, though, is it?
Well, she claims that
come
it's
on, that's
all great.
That's my point. What you
Yeah.
gonna say?
No, that's very true in terms of it's definitely not so much like the beta concept. I mean, I definitely appreciate her feedback and stuff, and there's definitely times where she will suggest a part that doesn't work or things like that, or times when whole stories just kind of miss the mark a little bit for her. But yeah, other than that, I don't really have folks that it's not necessarily that I don't want to turn to people or anything like that before things come out. Just not as much interest, I suppose. So.
How do you mean about not having much interest in
having people in my kind of friend group that would be interested in doing the reading
you don't think
for
people would do it?
Yeah.
I bet you're wrong.
And not so much. Think so?
Yeah. Shit, I got people reading my stuff, and it's boring as fuck.
Yeah.
This is not.
I bet you're wrong.
This is not boring. You're so full of shit.
Well, it's this, my book's nonfiction, so it doesn't up there with really strong fiction.
But for nonfiction, it's not boring. Some nonfiction is very boring, or stilted, or however you want to look at it. But your book is not. It has humor in it too. It works well.
I'm serious though. If you wanted readers, I have no doubt at all that you would find some quality readers to give feedback.
Yeah, that's probably true. It's probably just something that's not really been on my radar. For one thing, as of late, being involved with yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Being involved with the Death's Head Press folks lately, I'm sure I have a lot more people I could, rope into reading stuff for me. I'd be more than happy to participate. But like Becky.
I would be glad to. How did you ever guess?
I'm just good like that. I got a good intuition.
Are you psychic or Oh, wait a minute. That's psychotic, isn't it? I'm sorry, I mispronounced.
Yeah. Right.
Sidekick and psychotic sound an awful lot alike. So, this book just came out just days ago.
Days ago, eh?
According to Amazon.
Does it say that?
It says March 7th. Oh, a year ago. Sorry.
That's all right.
He can't read either.
I can read. I just refuse to.
It doesn't have a picture. He can't read.
I got the
Well, you never know.
And went, oh, it just came out.
SK's not illiterate. He's anti-literate.
There you go.
He's I don't want to be literate.
He just told you that the book had been out a year before.
Blah, blah, blah. All these words.
Blah, blah, blah. In and out.
I'm listening to her, damn it.
He's listening for the good content. That kind of dates and stuff, that's not important.
Yeah. Don't help him, damn it.
And then, the dates and shit kept coming up on tests in school, and, nah.
Yeah.
The only dates I was interested were in Friday night and Saturday night.
And now you see why he's a writer. Ted Bundy. No, I'm just kidding. You have something that you'd like to read, don't you?
I do.
I would like for you to read it.
Or your other
It is from this book.
Okay.
No, it's from this book. It's from actually the story I mentioned, Monrovia, my favorite piece in the book.
Awesome.
I went through it a little bit earlier. I think it's about 4.5 minutes. So if I get too rambly, go ahead and cut me off.
We will. We promise.
You're on the clock.
Now, be quiet, SK, and listen.
You're probably pretty used to this by now. Snake tongues slither through smiles that took far more than they gave. Monrovia blinked back tears. We've been working on a new procedure, Monrovia, to make things easier for you. The lies piling up, skin stretched over smiles. So what do you think? You want to give it a try? Life was so beautiful, so simple through the eyes of a 6-year-old. At least it was supposed to be. Moments when we see and realize just how far off track things have gotten. They always reside in reflections of youth, mirrors held at faces' angles to show us all those things we once cherished, now obliqued by knowing the world, by eating the motives of others and calling them our own, thinking we had something to offer by making each other come when in truth we offer nothing that isn't already there. Makes us sad to really look at it, take it out of the box, play with it, then put all the pieces back neatly as though it had never been touched. But that's the thing, it was touched. And once it had been touched, could never ever again take that back. Was all adults wanted to do, touch each other, pretend their touches meant something, and they'd lie to each other, telling back and forth that it did, we did. Ha, we meant something. Please just tell us we meant something. Became complex in our belief of each other, but life wasn't so simple, so beautiful as it should have been for little Monrovia, for she'd already seen so much more of the world than most ever would. She ate it up, spoonful after dirty spoonful, not because she wanted to. No, Monrovia would have been perfectly content being a perfectly content 6-year-old, still believing the world was beautiful, simple, simply. It felt like so long ago that she was only a 6-year-old, swinging feet not below waiting chairs and surgery rooms designed to take beauty, but under swings in the fresh air of imagination. She missed it as the tears she fought so hard to hold back came tumbling down her cheeks, looking up at Dr. Wormwood, not to believe him, not to plead with him, but only because there was nowhere else for her to look. She swallowed hard, trying not to sob out. Dear Monrovia, he still smiled, so big. It's okay. It's only the same as ever. You want to help everyone else be as beautiful as you are, don't you? Silence, beyond the muffled cries of a little girl. Well, aggravation rising a bit in his tone. All the same, we have to do what we have to do. He carried her little, now convulsing body over to the table and laid her down on her belly, her gown hanging at her sides. I see the old scars are healed nicely. Your parents said it had been plenty long enough. They know their little girl quite well. Monrovia's screams rang out through the room as Dr. Wormwood etched strips of skin off her back. A nurse had come in with a tray for the flesh. Warm blood spilled over the sides of the table, collecting in pools on the cheap tiled floor beneath. I can remember her taste, on water bottle's edge like lipstick from children wearing none, but to me like cherry pie covered plastic that I'd keep and hold ever so dear to me for so long. Bottles long ago fallen victim to the sea. See, this time I spelt it right for all of you. Wonder where they floated off to from now and then, like leaves in ocean, waves of foam that taste like little girls, nights of memory, flooding minds tormented by aches and pains, too severe to hear, describe. But you know what I mean when I say, we love you, me and all these memories. Or maybe you don't. Kicking feet on swings that we've grown too large to be able to really appreciate. Some appreciation beyond remember when? Because maybe I've never forgotten you swirling around somewhere there with the taste of plastic I'll never get off my lips. That's it.
Wow.
Very
Awesome.
Nice.
Awesome.
Bravo.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You had one line in there that really jumped out at me early on, and I put it in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
Eating the motives
Oh, yeah?
of others and calling them our own. I love that.
Oh, thank you. That's definitely a powerful one for me every time I read through it. Strikes me as well.
Do you write poetry?
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
what do you call
probably.
a single piece of poetry, Becky?
Damn
Yeah,
it.
what is that?
It's
It's
called a
a
what?
poem.
A what?
A poem.
That's so great.
A poem. It's a poem.
And it
My
forever
brother's
will be
dying
called a
laughing.
poem.
It is a poem. What?
I can't call it anything else anymore. I have to go with that.
Now, what gave you the initial inspiration for that piece in particular?
That piece in particular started, as actually many of my stories do, with something that strikes me as a title. And God, it's been so long since I've written that I might be off on this. If anyone's gonna like Google check me, but I'm pretty sure there's a city in Ohio called Monrovia. Because as I recall, I was driving either down or back up from Florida. I live in Michigan, and I saw this Monrovia sign off the expressway, and it just stuck with me. Ever since I was little, I've been a fan of Marilyn Monroe, so the Monrovia just immediately stuck out to me, and then connected to her, and then, you know, the beauty idea, and then very quickly it just became this sort of manipulation of that beauty and stuff. So it took off pretty fast.
There is a Monrovia in India.
There's one in Ohio as well. It's right off of
Is there?
I-210 is what the map is saying here.
Awesome. Sounds about right. We'll go with that.
Look at
Sounds
that.
about right.
Very interesting. So it wouldn't almost be just a title then. It would be kind of a concept you're working with.
Yeah, definitely. Kind of both sort of wrapped up into the one space there, I suppose.
Very interesting.
Fascinating.
Yeah, and it's definitely how much of my writing works, either just like a really small kind of sentiment or a feeling or a word or something, a title, and then I write so sort of, like I said earlier, stream of conscious, kind of very thematically as opposed to like heavy plot driven stuff. So once the language of something's there that interests me, it's pretty easy to run with, the themes and stuff and build a story out of it. Or, at least for me, that's how it works.
Very cool.
That's really cool.
So you have 2 books out.
Yeah.
The second book, I put the cover up, Terra Australis.
Uh-huh. That one is a novel, I guess maybe a short novel, but it's one cohesive piece as opposed to short stories.
Okay. And so what is coming up? What do we have to look forward to from Hyane Sawbones?
I have hopefully enough content for putting out another collection of short stories. I probably almost have enough content to justify a collection as it stands now, but I'm currently working on a few other stories that I'll probably put into that before it's fully ready to go.
Now, rumor has it that Becky and Deadman have put out the call for another anthology. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
So,
Would you like me to tell you about it?
tell us about it, because I want you to sell Sawbones on writing a piece for it.
Absolutely. The anthology is called Mr. Deadman Made Me Do It.
I love that.
So, what we're looking for is horror, satire, dark fiction about Mr. Deadman, the urban legend, that makes people do all sorts of horrible things.
That sounds wonderful.
So, it should be really fun.
If you say his name 3 times in the mirror, he shows up and waxes your ass.
Oh my God! No! Oh all go out in the field and eat cow balls. No.
I think SK should write a criminal defense for real monsters on that. SK is Ted Bundy. Mr. Deadman made me kill.
Oh my god.
That's a brilliant idea.
That would be too funny. That's
You should
too
do it.
funny.
Well,
Do
you know,
it, SK,
Bundy.
and then you could have Mr. Deadman on as a guest.
Yeah, exactly.
You can have Mr. Deadman on as a guest.
Oh my god.
Oh my god, he said. Oh, I love it. You guys are right.
So write something for the anthology there, Sawbones. Everybody would love that.
It definitely
Yes,
sounds
we would.
very compelling. I saw the post for it before and definitely footnoted it in my head to try and start coming up with something for it. I'm sure I can work something out.
I bet you can.
I would very much like you to think about sending a poem for the e-zine. Shut up, SK. Some poetry
You don't know
for
how
the
hard I tried.
e-zine.
Yeah, I could do that. I definitely have stacks and stacks of poetry, so I'm sure I could come up with some
Send me.
solid things for you. Will do.
So do you have
Send me all of them. I love poetry.
any kind of a timeline on this next anthology of yours? Or collection?
Not really. I've kind of been in a space lately of just trying to focus on like the creative side, kind of like, you know, we were addressing earlier, of all the different aspects of being an independent publisher / author situation, and just the energy drain that it takes to try and, you know, really accomplish all of that. So I've been kind of taking a step back as of late and just trying to focus more on writing and just the creative side of things. So I can't say for sure, but I definitely would want to put it out in the next, I don't know, 3-ish to 5 months maybe, say like half a year tops, because I have quite a bit of content at the moment. Like I said earlier, just a few stories that I'm currently working on that would probably fit in as well. And then the whole process of reading through everything and coming up with cover and formatting and all of that kind of stuff. So it'd be a little bit into the future, at least, for sure.
Awesome. So I know that that Deadman fellow, he likes to ask some questions about, you know, what's your favorite horror author and horror movie, and you know, I'm just not that guy, so I'm going to do variations on that. So what's your favorite romantic comedy film?
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Oh, man.
Oy.
Okay,
Favorite
wait a minute.
romantic comedy.
Before you answer that,
Kill me now,
I'm-
Mr. Bundy.
That's the name of the story.
I need to make an announcement. We have a live release party tomorrow night at 9:30.
Was
Oh,
It's
sounds
a live
fun.
broadcast.
this the Nazi book?
Yes, it is.
Awesome.
For the Monsters versus Nazis. So it will be
cool.
a fun time. Tune in,
Yes.
win some free books, and
I don't have a graphic
see what kind
on
of
that, I'm
havoc
sorry.
we can cause.
Yeah,
I'm sure we can cause a lot.
gonna
we
have
have
a lot
tonight.
of fun on that.
Yeah, it will be fun.
So, hey,
Always is.
there's
So,
been a lot of
romantic
pushback
comedy?
with the with that title, right?
Well, yes, because they don't like the word Nazi.
Well, you're not supposed to.
Yeah, that's the whole point.
Chelsea went to make a shirt on Teespring, and they objected to the cover because it had the word Nazi in it.
That's ridiculous.
And so he's
Because
he's
Nazis
fighting them
never
at the
existed,
moment.
right?
Oh
Well,
my God! I mean,
they
this
said
isn't
it was-
fucking Austria, and there is a town called fucking Austria, by the way. But
Yeah, there is actually.
fucking.
I just swallowed
Still
my
alive
gum,
there,
damn it.
Darren?
Halfway. I just swallowed my chewing gum, damn it.
Oh man, you know
Uh-oh.
that's gonna be in your stomach for like 7 years.
Forever.
Oh, well.
You're gonna become gum.
If I fart, I'll blow up. If I fart, I'll blow a bubble. It's all good. What? My brother just said, no.
So, anything
Oh, well.
else, Becky?
Well, I want to hear what this romantic comedy is now that I interrupted everybody.
You actually gave him time to think about it.
Yeah, I
did.
didn't. I have probably quite enough time. It's funny. I have just under 1,300 DVDs/Blu-rays. A big
Wow.
movie fan, as some people are. So I have.
Excellent.
Yeah, I probably have a couple handfuls of romantic comedies, but to even pull one out of the top of my head as a favorite is.
How about one
I
you
don't know,
don't
I'm
like
trying-
as bad as the rest?
Nothing. I'm drawing a blank. Let's go. Does
We have a
monster-in-law
winner.
qualify?
None is an acceptable answer.
That is hilarious, by
There
the
we
way.
go.
I love that. That movie was hilarious.
Yeah, that's a good one. It's funny, silly.
All right,
Yeah.
so one more question.
Romantic movies? God, SK. The hell is wrong with you?
Hey,
God.
was that expected? No.
Oh,
I do like the
that was
unexpected.
cruel. That was cruel and unusual punishment.
So then it fits right in with the show.
Well, I guess that's true. Okay. Anyway.
What's your favorite?
Now,
pet,
what was the
What's
next-
your favorite pet name to be called by a wife or girlfriend?
Favorite pet
Just didn't-
name?
Yeah.
My
Snookums.
girlfriend primarily calls me Wolf, which I guess is pretty solid. So we'll go with Wolf.
Damn, that's actually really cool.
Yeah, it is.
That's a lot better than, like, I don't know, Sugar Bear or some
Yeah.
shit like that.
I'm glad I had a solid answer for this one, not like the damn romantic comedy one.
So,
I was
SK,
trying to trip
what's
you up
yours?
and it didn't work.
SK,
I'm not,
what's yours?
I'm
That's
not
what
the
I want
guest
to.
tonight.
We want to know. Well, that doesn't matter. I always make Jesse answer the questions too. So, guess what?
That is fair.
I think I probably have been called doofus more than anything.
I was going to ask if you had a favorite phrase to hear while you were having your prostate examined, SK. Jeez.
Oh my
Well,
God.
That might
That's
be
a
the
very
same
specific question.
Usually, the question I usually get during the prostate exam is, "What the hell is this?" Okay, I think
At least she didn't say, "Would you like me to go Roto-Rooter?"
manual or power.
Oh my God. How did we get to talking about prostate exams?
I don't know. Ask Wes.
Yeah,
Thumbs up.
it's Becky's fault.
It's not my fault.
I get
It's all
prostate
Becky's
For
fault.
everything, damn it.
I get prostate exams 2 thumbs up.
Oh.
That's awesome.
No, just no. No.
I think I'm gonna pull the plug on this shit. I think we've done enough
Literally?
for one night.
If you like the show, hit like and subscribe. And if you really, really loved it and you think we're not totally insane, which we are, share it with a friend, with all your loved ones.
It depends on your diagnostic test of choice, Becky.
And if you hate it, share it with the people you don't like.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Point is, just share it, please.
Share it.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all have a good night.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Night.
Night.